Apostle John wrote when he said how he felt to know that his children walk in truth. And to hear from the youth to the most senior of us, we're thankful. We were experiencing and yet experiencing God's power, his wisdom, and his nature. And we want that theme to go on throughout the year. And next year, experiencing God's power and his wisdom and his nature. When it comes to the vitamins, we want to read daily these vitamins until we know more of the meaning of what we're reading. More of the meaning. I'm thinking of something we've shared so often in the past years that you probably will remember when I start saying it. God is always to us what he thinks. That's in Jeremiah. Okay? Now, if we don't remember that, it's because we have not been thinking about it. If we don't remember that, we have not been thinking about it. And if we have not been thinking about it, then we don't believe it. We don't. At any point in time in our experience, we will not believe what the Lord said. We must be thinking about what the Lord said all the time. What did the Apostle Paul write to us in Philippians 4? Let's read that before I continue on with that thought. He says these 8 things. 8 things we ought to be thinking about. Philippians 4, verse 8. Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Now, if we're not thinking on those things, we're thinking about other things. So in Jeremiah 29:11, the Lord wanted us to know, for I know the thoughts that I think toward you, said the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. This is the way God is always thinking. Now, if we're not experiencing his thoughts, it simply means that his thoughts are yet too far above us and we have not gotten to them. I know my thoughts that I think toward you. Now go to Isaiah 55. Isaiah 55. Beginning with verse 7. Isaiah 55, verse 7. Let the wicked forsake his ways, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. And let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. Next verse. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Now let's read verses 10 and 11 together. And they read, For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Now, on the one hand, he says, I know my thoughts toward you. And my thoughts toward you, he says, are for the purpose of giving you expectation. And how do his thoughts come to us? By his word. So when we get a hold to his word, we should give consideration to what we hear. Paul writing to his son Timothy, consider what I say, and the Lord give thee understanding in all things. Wisdom is the principal thing. Get wisdom. But in all thy getting, get understanding. And we need to be reminded that the Lord is always thinking good thoughts toward us. Thoughts of peace. Now, if we're in the midst of drama, unrest, and we're not experiencing the peace of God, it's because we're not remembering his thoughts. And we're not remembering his thoughts because we're not remembering his word. But here's the other part that you know in Galatians. Chapter 4. Galatians chapter 4. While you're getting there, remember, God is always to us what he thinks. He's always to us what he thinks. I want you to live in great expectation. But the only way that you can live in great expectation is to have a great knowledge of his word. And Paul said, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom. Chapter 4 of Galatians, verse 1. Now I say that the heir, any heirs in the room? It's sort of relative. I was thinking as Pastor Brown was speaking, he gives seed to the sower. We call it working capital. value in. We only give to where we place value. There are people who go to the stores and they buy stuff. And the stuff that people buy tells you what value they give it. Certain people, like myself, I don't buy certain things from certain stores because I don't put value in what's in that store. I may go to Dollar General to buy some cleaning supplies, but I'm not going to buy any food from Dollar General. I'm not going to buy anything to drink because to me there's no value in whatever's on the shelf. There's no value there. But for some people, they go there almost every day if they have the money because they put value there. I don't like going to Kroger's and I don't like going to Piggly Wiggly's. You know, I grew up going to Piggly Wiggly's with Grandma, or Safeway when it used to be. I would go to those places to get certain things, but I wouldn't make it a habit of going because I don't put a whole lot of value in what's in the store, especially in certain neighborhoods, because they redline, just like they do insurance. They redline their foods. So we can sell this food in the hood. So I won't go up to the store up there on University and buy any meat. We place money where we place value. And for those of us who value the word, we will buy it and sell it not. We will buy the truth. And the reason why we don't buy it is because we don't value it. The more we value what God said that interprets his thoughts toward us, the more we will invest in it. I have more books concerning the truth than any other item that I possess, because I want to know what God thinks. I want to know what he said. I want to understand what he said. So I place value in books. I place value in the truth. It doesn't matter what it costs. And the reason being is that I and you, we are heirs of God. Then it goes on to say that the heir, as long as he is a child, let me give some commentary. As long as he doesn't know what's valuable, he's an heir of everything that the parent has, everything the father has, but as long as he is incapable of placing value where it belongs, although being an heir, differeth nothing, absolutely nothing, from a servant, literally a slave. An heir of God who owns everything in the universe. He owns the angels, he owns everything, and we're heirs. As Abraham, who became the heir of the whole world. He became the heir of the world. And we're children of Abraham through Christ. And God is thinking toward us thoughts of peace and not evil to give us a great expectation. Although we're heirs of God, as long as we don't know how to place value where it belongs, we're no different than a slave that has to work hard, pop sweat, and cannot enjoy what we're heir to. We We cannot enjoy it. He's not going to put keys into the hand of a 3-year-old child to go out and drive that Bentley. As a matter of fact, he's not even going to put the keys into the hands of a 45-year-old to go out and drive that Bentley, because they don't know how to put the right value in the car. I tell a lot of people they don't need cars. They need to stay on the bus. They don't need cars because they don't place the proper value in them. They don't know what it takes to make a car. The process of getting that car to us in the marketplace to purchase it. Now, I'm just trying to bring out a point as to why we don't know any more than we know about the thoughts of God and enjoy any more of what it means to be an heir of God. I grew up in Motor City. The name of that city is what? Detroit. Motor City. And I worked at Chrysler. I worked at Ford. I worked in the automotive industry. And walk through the plant, you see movement all over the place. I worked on the assembly line, doing my part. Of course, they replaced that a long time ago with AI. Worked in the heat treat to see how they tempered that steel pinions and ring gears. Come to that door and the bell ring and the door go up and it's just hot steel stacked up. And I take my long tongue and I put it and pull the tray out just right. You don't want it to tip over. Red hot. And then take my other tongue and grab one and put it in the greaser. Then take this one, put it there. Then take that one, go down there. Then take this one, put it in there. Then take that one. And then sit down for 15 seconds. And then the doors come open. Then you gotta take this one, hang it on the ring as it's passing by. That one on the ring, that one on the ring, that one on the ring. And I began to think about ring gears and pinions in automobiles. Those that coming through here, they're for special cars. They're for race cars. These are for police cars. So we put value in automobiles. So when you get an automobile, you make sure you keep that automobile in good shape. You place your money in it. You keep it clean. We as heirs of God, when we put value in the Word of God, we do everything possible to get out of the status of a slave. Because a servant or a slave does not know what his master does. That slave only do what he's told to do. And Jesus said, you are my friends. I'm not calling you slaves or servants any longer. Because I want you to know not just what to do, but why you're doing it. I want you to put value in my communications. When you hear me say something, I want you to take it to heart, consider what I say, get a good understanding so you can make application of your assignment. Get out and get the word. Say it, get the job done. Get this. Some of us are experiencing frustration and wonder when we will ever arrive at the place that we can live by faith, walk by faith, and do a work of faith. When we can ever enjoy heirship. We were born again into a family where the Father owns everything. as soon as we were born, get this, we were born lords. We were born lords. See what it says? Differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. We are lords over everything God has. We are born lords. But if our thinking is not according to his thoughts, that's administered to us by his word, then we're no different from slaves, not lords. People who are in families of royalty, they have to be tutored in a special way, and God knows that. So the next verse says, verse 2, Galatians 4:2, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Now, we often say we need to be rightly and fully connected. Not just fully, but rightly. Not just rightly, but fully. Rightly and fully connected. Why? Because there are tutors and governors assigned to our lives to bring us to this place that we can exercise lordship over everything we were born into. There are a lot of people who want to run ahead, but they don't have the message on prosperity. And so the devil mocks the church because most people who preach prosperity don't preach it biblically. Money cometh is not true biblical prosperity. Believing God for a Mercedes and a nice home and a lot of money is not biblical prosperity. And the reason why we didn't get it is because we were under improper tutors and governors. And oftentimes when we are associated with good tutors and good governors, we're not in compliance. We're not compliant. We're not under. We don't have the right attitude. The disposition is not correct. We would like to argue with the teacher. I don't mean verbally, but intellectualization syndrome sets in. Intellectualization syndrome is I want to protect my ignorance. And that's just not in academia, that's in the church life. You can go to different denominations. Primarily, all denominations are a corporation of people that are gotten together to protect their ignorance. There's no way in the world you can be a part of a denomination and promote it and not be ignorant. People don't like to hear that, but it's true. Go to the book of Revelation, Church of Sardis, denominationalism. You have a name that you have life, but it's dead. And the thing that remain is ready to die and need to be strengthened. So that's the nature of denominationalism. They have a name that they got it going on, but they're dead. And the only thing that's left, they need a revival to keep it alive. And that's just the strength to come on Sunday mornings and Wednesday night prayer meetings. Because of immaturity. There's no way you can be denominational minded and be spiritual minded. That's not one of the things that God wants us to think on. How to become the bishop. How to become the moderator. How to become the district missionary. It's not organization that God is primarily concerned about. He's concerned about organism. Organism that's ever growing. See, it cannot be organization primarily because you have to continue to change organization because the organism is steady growing. So we're under tutors, we're under governors until he will not take us out until the time is appointed by the Father. And the apostle that wrote in Hebrews chapter 5, he tells us, for the time, there it is right there. That's chapter 5, verse 12. That you ought to be what? Teachers. You have need that one teach you again. Anyone that is not a teacher is still immature. They're still immature. When for the time that you ought to be teachers. He's talking about the whole church. Ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God. In other words, the elementary things. We're still in primary school. And those principles, he goes on to say, enables a person to become more skillful in the word of righteousness. If we don't have those principles laid, if we don't have that foundation laid, then we cannot skillfully use the word of righteousness because we're yet babes. 90% of all pastors who get up on Sunday morning have never laid a foundation. 90% easy, no exaggeration whatsoever. And I'll just go to say this too. When you come out of Bible college and seminary, I've been in seminary as a professor. Talking to other professors. And one thing is lacking in all organizations. I'm not saying all individuals in the organization, but the organization itself. The organization itself is not designed to teach Christ. It's designed to teach about him, but in him and him so much in us that we can convey him when we say what we say. So I tell people it's not where you went, but who you sat under. The Lord puts his servants under tutors and governors. The tutor is the instructor, the teach, the precepts. Here a little, there a little, line upon line, precept upon precept. And then he puts us under governors to show us how to do what we're saying. This is why I don't like to have meetings and really don't like to do a whole lot of classes. The best class I can offer is that you hang out with me all day. So you can see what I'm saying. That's the way Christ taught it. When he was out on the mountain and when he was teaching the multitudes, he didn't give them too much. And when he got into the house with his disciples, they said, now why were you speaking to them like that? I'm speaking to them like that so in hearing they can't hear. In seeing they can't see. And when it goes into their hearts, they won't understand. I just said what I said to them the way I said it so they can know it's out there to be had. But until you come into the house and become intimate with me, you'll never get an explanation. It will never be engrafted. You'll have a head full of knowledge, but you won't live by it. You'll preach it, but you won't believe what you're preaching. So some of us have to go back and get under where God brought us, under that tutor and that governor. And see, the governor, you know what a governor is on a ship. It's a little small part of a ship that turns this way and that way. Even though it's so small, it causes the ship to go in certain directions. And that's what a governor is in the life of a believer.